You've probably heard of visceral fat. It's the deep fat that wraps around your vital organs in your abdominal cavity, and it's extremely damaging for your health. And in this video, I'm gonna share with you 6 research-proven strategies to reduce visceral fat. And I'm gonna share with you the science of visceral fat so you understand how it develops, what makes it unique, and how we can target it. And this video is particularly important because here in the United States today, around 70% of adults are overweight. And most of those adults have abdominal obesity, meaning they have visceral fat. And this is one of the main reasons why we have an explosion of chronic disease, because visceral fat is linked to insulin resistance, heart disease, diabetes, and even certain cancers. So we need to get rid of the visceral fat. And to do that, we need to understand it. Now, the first thing that makes visceral fat unique, unlike the subcutaneous fat, the fat we can pinch on our arms and on our belly, visceral fat is inflammatory by nature, meaning those fat cells actually release these things called inflammatory cytokines that lead to systemic inflammation and additional visceral fat accumulation. And this is the tie between visceral fat and chronic disease. And these inflammatory cytokines being released are around all of your vital organs, your intestines, your liver, your pancreas. It's very damaging. The second aspect is visceral fat actually gets less blood flow than subcutaneous fat, which means it's actually harder to lose from exercise. When we exercise, we increase metabolic demand. Blood goes to our tissues and liberates fat from those fat cells to be burned off. Because visceral fat gets less blood flow, it's harder to lose. But there are certain kinds of exercise that are research proven to target visceral fat that I'm gonna share with you in a few minutes. The third aspect is visceral fat actually has greater receptors for stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And I think this is an inborn survival mechanism. When our ancestors were very stressed, they wanted to store this kind of deep fat. But the problem is today we have calorie excess and highly stressful lives without the activity that ancient ancestors may have had. So now we get this visceral fat accumulation that really robs our health. And finally, visceral fat is highly correlated with disease. So if you want to live a long and healthy life, we need to target visceral fat. And what people don't realize is just because you're at a pretty good weight and you're not overly obese, you can still have high levels of visceral fat. In fact, I was at a business mastermind group and I met a young man in his 30s who was lean, skinny by some measures, but got a DEXA scan, which is a scan that scans your whole body for your body composition, and had high amounts of visceral fat. He was sedentary, he was working a lot, he was very stressed. So just because you're not overweight doesn't mean you don't have these issues at the core. Now, the cool thing is that addressing visceral fat is generally going to be the healthy lifestyle stuff that you may lead to expect. But there are some specific nuances and very practical tips I'm going to share with you. The first tip to get rid of visceral fat is to eat a high protein diet of at least 100 grams per day. And the evidence is super clear. High protein diets are great for muscle mass, they keep you full longer, they increase your metabolic rate, but I actually want to cite some of the research for you so you understand that this really does work. There's a study called Higher Protein Diets Promote Greater Reductions in Visceral Fat. And what they found is when people consumed 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram, or around 0.7 grams per pound of body weight, that they lost more visceral fat than following lower protein diets. Practically speaking, if you were a 200-pound person, that's around 140 grams of protein per day. If you're a 150-pound person, that's around 100 grams of protein per day. So just understand this 100 to 150 grams per day is a pretty good ballpark for a reduction in visceral fat from your diet. Now, practically speaking, what this means, in my opinion, is that your first meal of the day, whenever you have that, should have at least 40 grams of protein. In fact, most of your meals should have around 40 to 50 grams of protein. And this is very doable if you focus on it. So for example, on breakfast, if you have 3 eggs, that's around 20 grams of protein. If you throw 3 to 4 ounces of any kind of animal containing protein like turkey or something like that, that's another 30 grams of protein. That's 50 right there. Or maybe your first meal is some kind of protein smoothie. You throw a scoop and a half of some kind of protein powder, some hemp seeds, chia seeds, a little almond milk, some cacao powder, all the things that we talk about inside our programs. That'll be around 40 grams of protein. You do that 2 more times per day, you've hit your protein target. Very, very essential. Now, tip number 2 to reduce visceral fat is to do some time-restrictive eating. This is often referred to as intermittent fasting. And this is so well supported by the research. If you allow your body to get into a more fasted state, you can improve your insulin sensitivity, control your calories, and lose visceral fat. I'm gonna share with you a couple different protocols that work well for this, but I wanna start with the research. There was a study published in 2015 called Time Restricted Feeding Without Calorie Restriction Reduces Visceral Fat and Improves Metabolic Health. And what the researchers found is over a 12-week period, participants lost 4% of the visceral fat by simply compressing their eating to an 8-hour window. They had their first meal at 10, they had a lunch sometime in the midday, and they had their last meal by 6 p.m. So they were fasted for 16 hours and they were fed for 8. And the researchers didn't even control the amount of calories they had. They let them eat what they want, but they just time compressed the window. Now, I suspect what happens a lot when you do these time compressed eating windows is you tend to eat fewer calories anyways, because you're full from the first meal, so you get this calorie reduction effect, but it's also because fasting improves insulin sensitivity. And visceral fat is highly correlated with insulin resistance. So daily fasting may be great for you. Personally, I'm not doing that right now, but I also don't mind fasting for a few hours in the morning. What I do intentionally try to do is not have dinner too late, past 6 or 7 p.m. at night, because I know it impacts my sleep, and it's also a great time later in the day to allow your body to get into that fasted state. Now, what I am a huge fan of is using longer fasting, 24-hour fasts, and even as you get more experienced, 3-day fasts for reducing visceral fat. In fact, there's a study published in the journal Obesity in 2019 that found that 24-hour fasts a couple times per week reduce visceral fat by 7% over just 4 weeks. And this is why inside my Fit Father and Fit Mother programs, I recommend all people do a 24-hour fast at least once per week for general health. And if you want to push your weight loss and lose more fat, you can do it twice per week. Practically speaking, this means you have an early dinner one day and simply fast until dinner the next day. That is a 24-hour fast. And during the fasting period, you'll drink non-caloric beverages, water, black coffee, green tea, herbal teas. This is such a great reset for your metabolism. Because what we can do is over this fasted period, your insulin sensitivity is going to improve. Your body's gonna be liberating some of that deeper fat. And here's a little bit of a tip. If you do wanna try to do this 24-hour fasting or push it to the next day and do 36-hour fasting, what you can do the day before is eat a lower carbohydrate diet the day before or do some strength training along with that to empty out those body's carbohydrate stores. That'll get you into a deeper fast faster. So that is a key insight. Your body really gets into these deeper fasts when the carb stores, the glycogen, is depleted. So you can use the lower carb day before that 24-hour fast or some strength training to empty those carb stores to get a greater benefit from this. So a practical tip from this is to start having dinner a little bit earlier. Maybe join our programs and start doing a 24-hour or 36-hour fast once per week. And as you get more experienced, you understand your body and gain more experience in fasting, you can try a 3-day water fast as a part of a healthy protocol.
The new science is super clear. Mitochondria are essential for optimum health and longevity. See, mitochondria are the battery packs inside all of your cells that create ATP, giving you cellular energy. And as we age, our mitochondria become damaged and dysfunctional, leading to low energy, brain fog, fatigue, and slower recovery from exercise. The good news is this supplement called MitoPure, created by Timeline Nutrition, can help because it supports your health at a foundational level by encouraging renewal of your mitochondria. MitoPure is a precise dose of a rare compound called urolithin A that helps your body clear out dysfunctional mitochondria and create new healthy ones, giving you more energy, better workouts, and more endurance to achieve any goals you have this year. MitoPure is the only urolithin A supplement on the market clinically proven to target the effects of age-related cellular decline and deliver increases in muscle strength and endurance without any change in exercise. Timeline is offering 10% off your order of MitoPure. Go to timeline.com/FitFatherProject. That's TIMELINE.com/FitFatherProject to learn more.
By the way, if you're liking this YouTube video, please smash the like button to let the YouTube algorithm know that this video is awesome and should be shared to more people. It is a huge favor to me, and I'll really appreciate you for doing this. Thank you so much for supporting my work. Now, tip number 3 for reducing visceral fat is to do some high intensity interval training at least twice per week. HIIT training, as you're probably familiar, is a form of cardio exercise where you do a burst interval of high effort, like 20 seconds of sprinting or doing squats, doing something very vigorous, buffered with a longer interval, maybe 1 minute or so, of lower intensity recovery exercise. So if you're at a point in your life right now where you want to lose visceral fat, you want to get rid of abdominal obesity, HIIT training should be what you prefer, along with strength training, as I'll talk about in a little bit, for reducing visceral fat. And here's the exact protocol that the researchers used in that study. They did a 20-minute HIIT workout 3 times per week. They did intervals of 30 seconds of maximum all-out effort, followed by a 1-minute period where they're resting and going really low intensity. So you go 30 seconds burst, 1 minute recover. You do that for 15 to 20 minutes. That's enough to start to stimulate the metabolism and to release those visceral fat stores. In my Fit Father and Fit Mother programs, that's why we incorporate HIIT training 2 times per week with strength training as well, so that you're building the muscle and improving your metabolism and targeting the visceral fat. And all the workouts and the programming we create is for busy parents over 40, meaning the workouts are safe, joint friendly, and time efficient. And the cool thing, with a properly designed exercise plan, training 3 times per week, the workouts can take 20 to 30 minutes a pop. So you're exercising under 90 minutes per week and dramatically improving your health. Of course, if you end up falling in love with exercise like me, you could do it more frequently, even train every single day. That'll improve your health even faster. But the point is, a couple of these pulses of the right workouts can totally improve your visceral fat. On to the next tip. Tip number 4 is you need to understand the connection between your gut and digestive health and visceral fat. This is so important. Today, in our modern lifestyle, it's not just that we have all these ultra-processed foods, higher sugar, it's that these foods, especially the artificial foods, the preservatives, the artificial sweeteners, they uniquely damage our gut microbiome. In fact, one of the main things in ultra-processed carbs is non-organic wheat that is often sprayed with the pesticide Roundup, aka glyphosate. And glyphosate causes dysbiosis in your gut microbiome. It kills your good gut bacteria, the probiotics, leads to an increase of the bad gut bacteria that create inflammation. Artificial sweeteners do the exact same thing. This is found in all of these fake processed foods these days. Aspartame, sucralose, it causes dysbiosis. And what happens is when you have a dysbiotic gut microbiome, it leads to inflammation in your gut lining, which allows certain byproducts from those bacteria called lipopolysaccharides, as well as proteins from the foods you're eating, to leak into the bloodstream, and your immune system reacts and creates systemic inflammation. This is really important because visceral fat is linked to insulin resistance and systemic inflammation. And there is research showing that if you improve your gut microbiome, you can support losing visceral fat. Here's the study. This was a study published in Nature that found that artificial sweeteners altered the gut microbiome and led to a 30% increase in markers of glucose intolerance within 1 week. What this basically means, you have a lot of artificial sweeteners in your diet. When you eat carbohydrates, your blood sugar levels stay higher longer. Your pancreas has to work harder. You crank out more insulin regularly, which prevents fat burning and leads to fat accumulation. So over time, if these things are getting in your body on a daily basis, let alone if you're getting pesticides in your food, this will damage your health. And the cool thing is, by actually getting the right kinds of probiotic foods into your diet, you can support visceral fat loss, as well as all the other benefits: digestion, better neurotransmitter production, easier fat loss, less inflammation. Here's a really cool study that I love. There's a study called The Impact of Probiotics on Metabolic Syndrome and Visceral Fat, and they found that daily supplementation with lactobacillus and bifidobacterium strains led to a reduction in visceral fat over a 12-week period. The exact protocol they used was using a probiotic supplement that contained 10 billion CFUs of both of these strains, lactobacillus, bifidobacterium. These are very common strains you're gonna find in probiotic supplements. Now, personally, the take-home message I want you to understand is you should be getting probiotics in your body every single day. I do not take probiotic supplements. I get my probiotics from food. But right now, if you're at a point where you're having regular gas, regular bloating, stomach discomfort, pain, any kind of weird stuff in your poop, then you should work on improving your gut health and consider taking a probiotic supplement, or do what I do, is get a go-to fermented food in your diet every day. What I personally do is I make my own homemade yogurt called kefir. It is really great in ancient strains of different probiotics that are really great for gut health. I also eat sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented pickles, miso. I want you to look at this list of different probiotic containing foods and pick at least one of these, if not two, and just get it into your diet every day. So in that high protein breakfast I recommended, get one of these probiotic foods on the side. Have it with every single meal. This is giving your body a steady stream of the good gut bacteria, so anytime you encounter stuff that's creating some digestive inflammation, you have more buffer and a stronger system. This is essential for long-term health. And one other thing I've also learned as I've gotten more mature and I've done health for so many decades now, is that you want to pay attention when you do your cheat meals or free meals to the types of foods you're having. Because I know personally, I can eat an entire bag of avocado oil chips, which is like 700 calories in one sitting, and I feel pretty fine. It's a lot of calories, it's probably not the healthiest food, but I feel okay. But if I have one slice of pizza, which has the wheat and the dairy and other things, it does not agree with my system. I will be bloated, lethargic, my poops will be messed up for an entire day. So I'm just saying, as you go out and you're trying to have a bunch of different kinds of foods, dial in the foods that really work well for your body. I know I can have the chips, I can go have sushi, but if I eat certain foods I know don't work for me, it's gonna cause more inflammation. Identify those inflammatory foods, get the probiotics in, that's gonna help your health and the reductions in visceral fat. Tip number 5 for reducing visceral fat is to prioritize sleep quality and stress management. As I said in the beginning of this video, one of the aspects that makes visceral fat so unique is that it has a higher percentage of receptors for stress hormones, meaning receptors for cortisol and noradrenaline and adrenaline. So when your body's in a stress state all the time, visceral fat becomes more active and reduces more inflammatory cytokines. And I think this is a deep survival mechanism for our ancestors. Like when they're stressed, the body has a signal to store this deep fat in case it needs it in the future. But in modern lifestyle, this is simply not helpful for us. So prioritize your sleep, which means consistent bedtime, reducing your light exposure at night, trying to get 7 to 8 quality hours, and sometimes when you have more time on the weekend, catching up on some sleep, getting a little extra sleep, all that's very helpful. But it's not just about sleep, it's also about stress management. If you're stressed throughout the day, you're also giving your body that signal that leads to visceral fat accumulation. And it makes so much sense. We have this nervous system that, depending on our mental emotional state, either helps crank out stress hormones or it's keeping us in a relaxed, healthy parasympathetic state. So practically speaking, what I do, and I honestly recommend this for everyone, it has changed my life, is in the morning, in the evening, I have at least a 2-minute period where I sit down and do some prayer, some meditation, some mindfulness practice. And to be consistent with this, the only way I found this works is I have a dedicated prayer and meditation chair in my bedroom that when I wake up, before I do anything else, I go to that chair and I just sit there. Sometimes it's just breathing and being present for as short as 1 minute, maybe up to 20 minutes, whatever feels good that day, but I'm consistent with it. And I do the same thing in the evening. Before I go to bed, I sit in that chair, I breathe, I pray, I meditate, I allow all those thoughts and stressful things to come up into my awareness, and I can actually process them and feel them. This is like a habit on every end of the day to make sure you're not accumulating that mental emotional stress. And we're all busy. If you've been like me for years and you're like, I want to do more prayer, I want to do more meditation, I can't be consistent with it, you got to tie it to the bookends of the day. I think it's the only way that makes it practical. Now, onto our final tip. Tip number 6, our final tip for reducing visceral fat, is to incorporate cold exposure into your life. And I'm not just talking about the trendy cold plunges. Yes, I'm a believer in that, but the research I'm going to show you doesn't involve any kind of cold water and still shows benefits. And here's the basic concept, is our body has visceral fat, we have subcutaneous fat that we can pinch, but we also have a special kind of fat called brown fat, also known as brown adipose tissue. This is a kind of fat that's very rich in mitochondria, which actually gives it a brown or reddish kind of color. And it helps us actually increase our core temperature. So anytime we're exposed to colder temperatures, the brown fat gets more activated, which increases our metabolic rate, creates heat from the food that we're eating. It actually burns it and creates more heat. And this is also helpful for your metabolism. And here's the cool thing, you can get this benefit without even cold plunging. Practically speaking, what I would recommend you do for getting this into your life is to start sleeping in a colder room. So either get a lighter comforter. I don't even sleep with a bed sheet anymore. I have just this weighted blanket that's very porous, so I know I'm in a colder temperature at night. Or maybe you can turn on your air conditioning. Or if the weather is appropriate, you can crack a window and get it colder at night. But of course, if you have access to cold water, like a cold plunge, or maybe ending your showers on some cold, you're gonna get some additional benefit. So I just wanna say, cold exposure, very good for your health, and it can be a part of overall strategy to reduce visceral fat. So there you have it, 6 research-backed ways to reduce visceral fat and improve your cardiometabolic health. I hope you found this video very valuable. If you did, again, please hit the like button to make sure more people see this on YouTube, and also share this video with someone you love. Even if they are into health and fitness, I think we can all reinforce these fundamental things that keeps us healthy cardiometabolically. And listen, the only way we're gonna get a healthier culture, healthier families, healthier generation is to improve the health awareness and education. To share this information with more people, I please urge you to do that. It's gonna help so many people by sharing this information. And I wanna say, if you wanna come deeper with me and my team, you can go below in the description. I have a couple cool things for you to check out. The first is my free 6-video series that I'll send straight to your email. These are in-depth videos where I give you a full day eating plan. I give you high intensity workouts, strength training workouts, and some of my best tips for improving mental discipline and consistency. I send that to you all free to your email. You can watch the whole entire series. It's my gift for you joining my email list and coming deeper with my Fit Father and Fit Mother Project communities. And if you're really excited, if you want a done step-by-step plan to incorporate all this stuff into your life, no guesswork, all the workouts, meal plans, nutrition, and to work directly with me and my team, I have my foundations programs for Fit Fathers and Fit Mothers. You can click the links below in the description as well and check those out. Overall, I'm so happy you made it to this end of this video. I hope this really served you. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll see you around the YouTube channel, and I'll talk to you very soon, my friend.